From May 14th of 2019, Attorney General Barr launches an investigation into how the FBI investigation of Trump being a Russian began, and this news story broke today. Many Americans are unaware the FBI was also investigating Hillary Clinton's email server during the 2016 election campaign, and also Bernie Sanders. Yes, this video is about how the FBI was investigating all three major presidential candidates during the election cycle. This is the first time all the major candidates in the Democrat and Republican primary were under FBI investigation.
There is a hunger for that to happen.
It's been a constant in President Donald Trump's talking points for months.
Going back to the origins of exactly where this all started.
And now U.S. Attorney General William Barr has made it official. He's launching a new inquiry into the origins of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe. A source tells Reuters leading the investigation of the investigation will be U.S. Attorney for Connecticut John Durham.
A lot of media today is looking at John Durham and how he's going to look into the origins of the investigation into President Trump. This video looks at the origins of the investigation into candidate Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was being investigated by the FBI. His wife was being investigated by the FBI for bank fraud, and that investigation opened in March of 2016 after Bernie had unexpectedly won several Democratic primaries. Enjoy.
Attorney General Bill Barr tapping a top prosecutor to investigate how the Russia probe began.
Attorney General Bill Barr, true to his word, has just appointed a U.S. attorney to determine if surveillance of the Trump team was unlawful. Connecticut's U.S. Attorney John Durham will investigate the origins of the Russia investigation.
I want to ask you about the FBI looking into Burlington College and a land deal there and financing around it from the time when your wife, Jane Sanders, was president of the college. You and your wife recently retained lawyers. I guess the fundamental question for you is, did you or anyone on your staff reach out to the bank to approve any loans related to this transaction?
The answer is, of course, absolutely not. And in fact, let's be clear, 5 years after my wife left Burlington College, and she left it in better shape than it had ever been in. 5 years after, guess what happened?
As Donald Trump's campaign was building steam last spring, an FBI lawyer sent a text message to one of the Bureau's top agents who was working on the Russia investigation. The lawyer, Lisa Page, wrote, "God, Trump is loathsome human." And the agent, Peter Strzok, said Hillary should win 100 million to 0. When Clinton won the primary, he wrote, "About damn time." And when it appeared Trump won the election, Strzok texted, "OMG, this is expletive terrifying."
For more than a year leading up to the election, FBI agent Peter Strzok and lawyer Lisa Page disparaged Donald Trump in text messages. In a text in 2015, Strzok called Bernie Sanders, quote, "an idiot like Trump." In a text in 2015, Strzok called Bernie Sanders, quote, "an idiot like Trump."
Right in the middle of my presidential campaign.
U.S. Attorney Bud Cummins. Bud, what is your take on this investigation? Because, again, it does seem serious.
Well, and anytime the FBI is looking into matters that involve you, it's serious. The FBI is investigating a transaction. If that leads to Jane Sanders, so be it.
The senator from Vermont finds himself in the hot seat today. Well, I wouldn't say hot seat. I'd say it was a lukewarm seat. He's not even the one under investigation, but his wife, Jane Sanders, Bernie Sanders' wife, is under investigation for a story that we reported here on this channel a few weeks ago. It's about when she oversaw a college by the name of Burlington College in Vermont from 2004 to 2011, I think it was, and a loan she got for the college. For the college. The money went for the college. And the inability to pay back that loan. There's been some questions about how she got approved for the loan and the collateral that she said she was going to have for the loan not coming through. She said she would get donations for the college, and less than half of the donations that she projected materialized. So we have ourselves a situation where there is a Republican GOP vice chair by the name of Brady Toensing, who filed this lawsuit or filed an investigation into this. Now it's become something to talk about. Now, Bernie Sanders commented on this investigation that now has been taken up by the FBI during a trip to Pennsylvania to, where was he going? He was out there, he was taking a trip, Pennsylvania and Ohio. So Bernie Sanders responded. He said, this is just a distraction. They came up with it while I was running. It was to discredit me. I don't think it will be much of a distraction, though.
I know this will shock the viewers. The vice chairman of the Vermont Republican Party, who happened to be Donald Trump's campaign manager, raised this issue and initiated this investigation.
Bernie Sanders will, in fact, beat Hillary Clinton in Michigan's Democratic presidential primary. This is a major upset. How major? Now, consider that in all 15 pre-election polls conducted in Michigan this year, Clinton led Sanders by double digits. This is the 9th and largest state that Sanders has won so far in the Democratic presidential campaign. I think, Joe, that falls right into the narrative you were discussing, which clearly was that, in fact, Bernie Sanders' message about trade and those issues resonated for both Trump and Bernie Sanders in Michigan.
Now to an astonishing groundswell of hipster support tonight in New York City for presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Momentum growing, but can it be counted on in the end? Here's ABC's David Wright.
Tonight in the heart of Greenwich Village,
there are a lot of people here tonight.
Bernie Palooza. More than 500,000 college students live in New York City alone. Tonight, about 27,000 Sanders supporters packed Washington Square Park, one of Sanders' biggest crowds yet. Tonight's rally, a star-studded affair.
Oh, man, it's amazing to be in Washington Square Park.
I'm the designated hype man, Bernie Sanders.
Like a rock concert. Hillary Clinton had her own rally tonight.
Wow, I am so happy to be back here.
A stark contrast to the scene up in the Bronx, where
I know this will shock the viewers. The vice chairman of the Vermont Republican Party, who happened to be Donald Trump's campaign manager, raised this issue and initiated this investigation.
So this is true, that Donald Trump's campaign manager, Brady Toensing, is the person that started this investigation. And at first glance, it seems like, oh, it's just a typical political nonsense. No big deal. He does know people in the FBI. His website from his law firm says he has personally represented CIA and FBI employees in internal investigations and hearings. So he certainly knows FBI agents because his own website from his own law firm says he does. Does he know Mueller or Comey? Let's see. So if Toensing knows either James Comey or Robert Mueller, it'll be highly suspicious because James Comey certainly worked to help Hillary Clinton by not indicting her, and Robert Mueller and James Comey are really good friends and are very pro-Hillary Clinton. So let's see if he knows either of these two gentlemen. Here's the evidence he probably knows Robert Mueller. It says from his website, Brady Toadsing for the past 9 years has represented the former president of the Bank of Commerce and Credit International through litigation and multiple lawsuits. That was a bank that was closed in 1991 because of accusations of money laundering for drug dealers and terrorist groups. It'll be interesting to note who the chief investigator of the bank was when it was closed. So Toadsing represented the former president of the Bank of Credit Commerce International. Who was investigating the Bank of Credit and Commerce International in the early 90s? None other than Robert Mueller III. And he testified to the Senate the BCI was not an ordinary bank, but it was deliberately set up to avoid regulatory overview. The bank officials pled guilty and paid a $14 million fine, and Senator John Kerry criticized the plea deal, saying it was by far too lenient for a bank that had a corporate policy of laundering drug money. Here's a story from June of 2017. Bernie Sanders and his wife hire lawyers as FBI probes fraud in her $10 million loan. Bernie Sanders and his wife have hired attorneys in the FBI investigation into alleged bank fraud originally sought by Trump campaign in Vermont. In 2010, Jane Sanders obtained a loan of $10 million to expand Burlington College while she was its president. According to Politico, Jane Sanders is being accused of having falsified and inflated nearly $2 million that she claimed donors had pledged to repay the loans. When did this whole investigation start? In January of 2016, the first Democratic debates were in October of 2015, and Bernie crushed. And in January of 2016, a U.S. attorney for Vermont received a request for an investigation into this bank, and his name was Brady Toadsing, a guy who knows Robert Mueller and Jim Comey, and he tipped off the FBI to investigate Bernie in a 4-page letter documenting exhibits at how there was bank fraud. Prosecutors are also speculating uses political position, etc. And while Bernie Sanders is not himself under FBI investigation, his wife is. This is the first time in the history of our republic the FBI was investigating Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, the two leading challengers to the apparent favorite of the media, Hillary Clinton, for president. What a scandal. Now, later, in 2018, Bernie Sanders' wife was cleared of these charges. Today, the Justice Department opened up its own investigation with a prosecutor to determine if the investigation into Donald Trump's campaign that were trying to prove he was linked to Russians was politically motivated. I humbly submit this is evidence that that Russia-Trump collusion investigation was politically motivated, because you had Peter Strzok, an FBI agent who was anti-Bernie and anti-Trump, who was like number 4 or 5 guy in the FBI, head of counterintelligence. He's anti-Bernie, he's anti-Trump. Brady Toadsing knows Mueller and Comey, and evidently they're anti-Trump. And this whole thing is being investigated now by William Barr, who wants to get to the bottom of why the FBI was investigating Trump. I want Bill Barr to get to the bottom of why the FBI was investigating Bernie, because the investigation started in January of 2016. His wife was first interviewed in May of 2016, and a follow-up interview was done in June of 2016, right before Hillary Clinton got the Democratic nomination.
I have been talking for nearly a year about the obvious reality that the Democratic National Committee, then led by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, was conspiring to crown Hillary Clinton the Democratic presidential nominee and take down Bernie Sanders. We knew it, right? We knew about the decisions around debates being made to help Hillary Clinton. We knew there was very shady stuff going on with the Clinton campaign offices sharing space with DNC offices. We knew that Debbie Wasserman Schultz had previously been on Hillary Clinton's 2008 committee. But those were circumstantial pieces of data. They were requiring of inference. What about something undeniable? Well, we have it. Over the weekend, there was a huge WikiLeaks email release, which included nearly 20,000 emails, and WikiLeaks have not yet revealed their source. What we know is that the emails are devastating to the narrative. Here is just a little bit of what we learned through these email leaks, and it is truly stunning. We know that the DNC's CFO and CEO considered portraying Bernie Sanders as an atheist to damage his chances in more religious states.
Well, it's been an unexpected start to the Democratic National Convention amidst an email scandal showing a concerted effort to help Hillary Clinton win the party nomination. Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been forced to resign as chair of the Democratic Party.
Trump better?
I don't give a Trump. Okay? Trump is dangerous for this country, and so is Hillary Clinton. What's she going to do for me? What's she going to do for my children? What is she going to do for my community? Yeah. Is she going to frack the hell out of it? Is she going to put more of the soldiers on the ground?
I love this woman. She's a delegate.
Do you believe one damn word a woman like her says? People have been laughing at me and, oh, well, you know they've been saying that forever. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? What I remember is that by the thousands and hundreds of thousands in this election, people were wiped off the voter rolls.
There you go. New York City's Board of Elections will admit it purged more than 200,000 voters from city rolls. 200,000. That was in Brooklyn. After many Brooklyn residents arrived at the polls during last year's presidential primary to learn they were deemed ineligible to vote, the good government group Common Cause New York filed suit. State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman and the Brooklyn U.S. Attorney Office joined in the litigation. $200,000 people purged from the rolls in Brooklyn alone. You think that's the only place that happened? By the way, New York City's Board of Elections is acknowledging it broke the law. They were willing to break the law to keep Bernie Sanders from winning. And they did it on a mass scale. They didn't do it on a little scale, mass scale.
People's affiliation with one party was flipped to another. Did we hear the leaders of the Democratic Party, including President Obama, get out and try to do anything about it?
Nothing.
No. We've got to stop it. We've got to clean house. We've got to demand it. We've got to stay with ourselves and build this revolution. Bernie wants to help us build the revolution, but I'm not a sheep for Bernie or anybody else, and I will not spend what few years I've got left on this earth to help someone like Hillary Clinton. So come take my credentials.
And now to Vermont.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I move that the convention suspend the procedural rules. I move that all votes cast by delegates be reflected in the official record, and I move that Hillary Clinton be selected as the nominee of the Democratic Party for President of the United States.